Let everybody settle. Thank you very much. Great, interesting panel discussion there. So good afternoon. My name is John Dable. As the introduction said, I'm the director of HTC Vive in EMEA, and pleasure to be here at the Economist Enterprise Metaverse Summit. I hope all of you are having a good afternoon. So we're here to talk a little bit today about collaboration within the metaverse and how that's progressing and some of what we're doing in this space. Let's start with a little bit of a quote. I'm sure many of you have seen this quote, and many of us are familiar with it and agree with it. And in fact, I've seen a few things today that certainly appear to be magic, but are very much real and in use today. So this is Arthur C. Clarke's quote from Profiles of the Future. And I think, that's something that is always inspired us at HTC about trying to make the technology disappear into the background. And we at HTC have been innovating in this XR and VR space since 2015. In fact, even if you look at our logo, it refers to this. We talk about this humanity and technology driving human imagination, and that's what the triangle shape of our logo refers to, and it's something that reminds us every day about what we want to do. The point here is technology is not at the heart of the story. We're not here just to talk about the tech or the hardware. We're talking about the humanity of this story, and you should all be the hero of this story, not the technology. It should disappear into the background. Over the years, as society, we've worked with numerous different ways to collaborate. The pandemic has accelerated that in a number of different areas. Looking around the audience, a number of you are probably not old enough to remember a time before instant email, instant communicator, high-speed broadband, or a battery that would last more than 5 minutes. But even back then, businesses still needed to innovate. And the point is that it was harder to collaborate. It was harder to get together other than, people traveling endlessly to do that. So over the years, some of that new technology has leaped into our consciousness or leaped into our daily use. Almost like AI today. It was nothing a few months ago, and it's all pervasive now in the mainstream media. Other times that technology has sort of seeped into our life on a daily basis, with early adopters being the first wave there. So technology helps us to break down those barriers and to enable smarter productivity and mainstream. I'm just going to move over here, and I can refer to a couple of notes. Remote collaboration is really enabling people already today to overcome distance and even physicality. By bringing people together into these virtual spaces, we can bring a bit more of that human connection that you don't have over other systems. Hybrid working has always been a big topic for the last few years. And even putting that aside, there's this balances that businesses are trying to find between productivity of employees and employees being physically present in the office. And it's not always possible for businesses to have everybody physically together. If you're a global business or you're distributed across multiple sites, that's not always possible. So that's part of why the next important technology that's really already started today to have a big impact is immersive VR. So I want to talk about immersive XR, and I'm sure everybody in the room has had technology that's been advertised as being transformational and how it's going to change our lives. And sometimes, frankly, that's been a bit of wild optimism. So it's probably fair for you to ask, what makes us think that immersive XR can and will make a difference in the workforce today? And I think the answer to this is the use cases. And I'll talk to some of those in a moment. But there's already thousands of real-world XR use cases. I'm sure a number of you have been in sessions today that have talked about those and how they're really changing lives. I sat in on the doctor from Great Ormond Street Hospital with a brilliant example of how XR is improving lives. And from a business perspective, XR is already helping businesses to collaborate, and it's benefiting employees and employers in both a meaningful and measurable way. And this is all thanks to both advanced hardware and software with a credible level of immersion. We're seeing rapid adoption across a range of industries, from design-led use cases. We're perhaps at the early stage of VR. People like Bugatti and others in the car industry, people like Zaha Hadid, architects, Cityscape, who are here with us today, and others in that architecture space, right through to schools, universities who are using XR for education. We've seen big businesses like Ford and Coca-Cola use XR in manufacturing and workflow optimization, and many, many more examples. And when it comes to training, VR and XR, immersive XR, has totally changed the game in just about every industry today. And this isn't just me or us saying this is data from PwC. The immersive technology is only set to grow. The number of jobs impacted by VR and XR will rise to 23 million over the next 7 years, with the biggest impact in some of our largest economies, China, US, UK, Germany, and so on. So I'm going to show this video, it's only 30 seconds, and then talk a little bit more about some of those real-world use cases.
The most successful brain surgeries start before you enter the operating room. With a 3D model of your brain, we rehearse your exact procedure from every possible angle, so we can deliver the highest survival rates in the country. At NYU Langone, the nation's #1 hospital for neurology and neurosurgery.
So that's NYU in the US, a little bit closer to where we are in London. We've got University College London's work with RUVR, where medical professionals are now training on complex techniques in VR. Again, as I said, you've seen examples of this in some of the sessions today. This is not only minimizing risk for patients, but it's also maximizing the learning opportunities. The challenge with medical training in the past was that students often had to wait for that live scenario. In other words, the right patient to walk into your hospital when you, the student, are on shift. Now, from any time and any location, students can remotely access a wide variety of training, from on-demand sessions, live lectures, and even surgical techniques, so that you can train the procedures and the muscle memory before you go into that operation. Using this, UCL was able to triple the number of students in training, with a significant increase in both learning retention and students reporting increased engagement. All of this while saving travel time and costs and reducing carbon as a result of that to near zero. Another example, Fundamental VR has combined immersive VR with real haptic feedback. So trainees can still have that physical feedback in surgical techniques, and feel what it's like to actually drill into the bone. Not something I've ever fancied doing myself, and I got a bit squeamish in the earlier session as well. But that experience is so realistic that the Royal College of Surgeons is now accepting XR training as a part of the surgeon's annual requalification. And I think there's some really important points here. Training is often seen as something you do once. You see it as something you're coming into to learn to do. But training isn't and shouldn't be done once. In this medical example, people need to be requalified in new techniques, new processes, new products. And in the past, doing that, per my earlier examples, has been quite costly for businesses. With XR, you've got the ability to have a highly trained workforce by regular retraining and engagement. This year has seen the mainstream launch of mixed reality with high-quality, full RGB cameras, taking us from VR to XR. That XR term is that all-encompassing VR through to augmented reality, and bringing another level of immersion. Now 3D models, as you see here, can be blended with real-world environments, be that for design, diagnostic, for your service teams, testing new products and workflows, in the real world, or mixing the real world and the virtual environment. A great example is Join XR's spatial meeting platform that enables teams to bring these 3D models into the real world environment using MR. So teams can now collaborate in those design reviews, e.g. the CAD model as you see here of an engine or a helicopter in this case, and to do so in real time from the same room or remotely. So this isn't always about connecting people from remotely and different locations. And there's another important point here, I think, in terms of employers want to access the best talent and securely, no matter where they are in the world. And XR, immersive XR, is one of the ways of doing that. Some of the examples I've talked about are a little bit more hands-on. So what about the office environment? So there are some key differences, I think, to immersive technology and how that stands out versus existing methods that we use today. Those of us who've experienced immersive XR and been in VR meetings and collaborative spatial meetings understand this because it is very experiential. Employees often report today that they suffer fatigue from video calls, and that it's hard to feel engaged on those video calls. And there's been a lot of research into why that is. You know, one of the factors is you're constantly fighting the natural urge on the screen to look at the video of the person that's speaking, which means you're instantly looking away from the camera, which means you look disengaged. But I think to me it's more fundamental than that. When you're on a 2D call, you're also got your emails and your Teams chats and all those daily distractions literally on the screen there right in front of you. Sure, we all use phones in real meetings from time to time, but the majority of your attention is still spent on the people that are speaking and the discussion that's ongoing. So how does immersive XR help? Well, it creates this sense of connection again. Not only can avatars be realistic, but in the previous session this was touched upon, we can even have eye and face tracking movement within immersive XR spaces. So those important body language cues now come into these environments as well. And having a sense of presence, being locked off from the outside world and present in that meeting is so powerful. You can have a 3D representation of the space and the person that you're talking to or the people that you're talking to, and it doesn't feel like you're watching TV or looking at a screen. Talk about this 80% figure. We've got some research from our partner Arthur Digital on VR collaboration for remote hybrid teams, and the data they found was that 80% of team members felt that they were actually in the same room with their colleagues when they were using their experiences. 80% of team members agreed that they were more focused and attentive in VR than on a video conference. And 80% of team members agreed that onboarding is much more personal experience in XR than it is in a video conference. And there's lots of other data from this survey that we can talk about as well. So, post-pandemic, there's been a lot of talk about remote working, and some companies are shifting back to full-time office working. But as I mentioned earlier, it's important to remember that so many organizations still have physically separate offices. We're global businesses with teams in different locations. And as I said earlier, we want to access that talent in terms of wherever it is in the world. So remote collaboration has changed how we work together, enhancing in-office work, like 3D object visualization, which I'll show in a minute, and being able to discuss that together with colleagues and collaborate as those global teams. whether they be in the same office or different offices and locations. And to us, it's really important that the workspaces can act as immersive virtual extensions of a physical space to foster deeper collaboration and engagement across the whole business. And it can be particularly effective for those large global teams. It's also, not a case of just replacing the real-world office. It's about complementing and extending those offices. Let me play the video here, and that will talk to or demonstrate some of the use cases I've talked about. So as the video shows there, this isn't just about the technology. This is what I mentioned earlier, that technology is disappearing into the background, and this is the connection of people, no matter where they are in the world, handshaking on the deal, looking at the design of the environment and agreeing on that. It's about using the technology to bring those human connections. Let's look at the future of immersive spaces. And again, a lot of this is here already today, literally in this building today. And let me talk a little bit about HTC Viveverse and our Viveverse for Business platform. It's not just the avatars that can look realistic. HTC's Viveverse is our immersive ecosystem built around the principles of openness and interoperability. In the last session, we talked about how important that was as we build this community moving forward. We've built a specific platform for enterprise customers called Viveverse for Business with that immersive workspace, which can be tailored to different businesses, customized for their needs, both at branding and look and feel, as well as the types of spaces they want to use. As a business, you've got these 3D environments you can fully interact with and keep people engaged. An earlier version of this was already used last year by global technology group eAnd under their Etisalat brand to host a virtual showcase of their incredible GITEX stand for those people that couldn't attend the event in person. And when we look at the technologies that are powering immersive workspaces, ones that can bring 3D models and avatars into the virtual world, we have the possibility and the potential to unleash that imagination and creativity and socialization within the community and enabling human connection in new ways. There are certain things that XR has the potential to tremendously enhance in areas of productivity. And the video here shows the level of quality of experiences that we're now able to bring to these platforms. This is a very complex model, as you can see, of an engine, but users can get together from wherever they are in the world, look at this, expand it in very minute and at a very detailed level. So this is one of those powerful use cases for business, whether it be an engine or something complex here, or training your teams on a new product. As humans, we visualize in 3D, and I think this is one of the leading use cases that we're seeing in these immersive spaces, getting people to actually to be able to experience these spaces. At a basic level, it's possible today to have virtual multi-screen setup, so you can see your real-world keyboard and mouse, so you're expanding that workspace. We actually did regular design reviews of our Vive Focus 3 product using VR. The old process was that we would physically have to build those mock-up units, ship them around the world to key stakeholders, who would then get on a call to discuss potential changes, and then you go into the next round of design. Now with VR, we're able to bring those designs instantly to the users, get the stakeholder engagement quickly, and move forward much faster to the next step. There's other ideas here as well, brainstorming free of the distractions of the workplace or the home environment around you, previewing marketing campaigns on large screens. And these are all applicable to external use cases as well, so bringing your clients into these meetings. Open ecosystems, briefly. Breaking down barriers is so important to collaboration, and HTC believes in an open ecosystem so that organizations and developers can take advantage of flexible technology in the way they choose to. In Viveverse for Business, you can bring 3D models from any of the popular file formats. Avatars can either be imported using the standards or built in seconds using just a selfie. And this flexibility is key for organizations wanting to get the most out of virtual spaces. They shouldn't be stuck with one solution. They should be able to grow. So these are what the spaces look like today. After the session, we've got a demonstration of this upstairs. Sometimes it's even a case for businesses, though, of where do we start. So some customers perhaps just want a meeting space, but don't want to have to worry about the design and build and hosting of those virtual spaces. So there's a number of providers, ourselves included, that can offer full turnkey solutions. At the other end of the scale, there's organizations that want to build bigger, much more customized environments where partners, employees, and customers can all interact in these new virtual spaces. It's becoming easier and easier to support these and quicker to deploy. With Viveverse for Business, we can deploy solutions in 6 to 10 weeks, with the time getting shorter all the time. And we can create these branded, persistent spaces that are easily accessible to employees and customers of the business. And this includes a modular design, so it's super easy and quick for optimization of the virtual campus and to customize the space according to your needs. We also need to consider accessibility, and that's another barrier to collaboration. In the office, that can include physical presence, while in virtual spaces, it's about how people can participate. We think virtual collaboration to succeed, it's important to be device agnostic, both on the XR hardware that people are using, but also on laptops, PCs, and mobile devices for maximum accessibility and inclusion across the office. And we strongly believe that solutions should allow as much or as little immersion as businesses and organizations need. So to summarize, collaboration is at the heart of many XR and immersive Web3 solutions today. Those of us who've trained, worked, and even socialized in VR know the difference already that this can make, and this is why we've built products like Viveverse for Business. We're the early adopters, going back to my story earlier, and the momentum continues to grow, and this will ensure that this new technology, like others before it, will steadily come into more and more businesses and more areas of our lives, as many technologies have before. This isn't about replacing face-to-face meetings or even current 2D Team and Zoom's meetings, chats. It's about having the right tool for the right job. By making remote collaboration more sophisticated, it becomes an incredibly powerful tool for the enterprise customer. We see the real world around us in 3D, and looking at a flat screen has always been a compromise. So we've got this world of incredible possibility at our fingertips, and the beauty of XR is if you can imagine it, you can build it. So thank you. That's everything from me. Have a great rest of day. And whilst there isn't time for questions now, we are upstairs if there's questions afterwards. Thank you so much.